All right. You saw the thumbnail. You know I'm going to talk about it. So let me set the scene. It's November 2025, this past November. Everybody, and I mean everybody, thought Stranger Things season 5 was about to suck the oxygen out of the room. Massive budget, global hype, Netflix doing what Netflix does. And honestly, that's what it did. A lot of people watched Stranger Things. But in the cracks of that release was something unexpectedly happened. This little Canadian show, and if you haven't heard about it, it was about two gay hockey players with basically no traditional US ad spin at all. And somehow it exploded. If you haven't heard about it, I don't know how. You must be living under a rock if you haven't heard about it. Even if you haven't seen it, you have to hear about it. It's viral everywhere. We're talking over 300 streaming minutes. There's no Super Bowl ads. There's no billboards in Times Square when it came out. No partnership with Coca-Cola like you saw with Stranger Things. Now, you're probably wondering if you're a small business owner, what does this have to do with you? But I know this has to feel familiar. You're competing with big guys, right? You're always up against somebody who is going to have more money, a bigger team, louder ads, and more margin for mistakes. And that's exactly what happened. And you already know this truth. You cannot outspend them. You have a small business, a small, medium business, and maybe your competitor, you can't outspend them. But the question ends up becoming, how do you outmaneuver them? And that's exactly what Heated Rivalry figured out against the big guns of that opening weekend with Stranger Things. They didn't win with ads. They won by building what I'm going to call like a community first content strategy, one that turns fans into their marketing department. I've talked about this so many times with clients, especially when you look at the funnel and you look at the bottom of the funnel, which is like where advocacy and loyalty lie. If you want to save money on your marketing, this is where you need to really hone in and focus on a strategy. And that's the whole purpose of today's video, is how to use content to create that. So today I'm going to break down exactly what they did and how you can steal this strategy. Okay, so let me give you a framework. You see here, this is a 4-pillar framework I'm going to use to discuss their content strategy and what you could use for your own content strategy, content first marketing, launches, product expansions, or just maybe your storytelling that you plan on doing in 2026 without having a big giant blockbuster budget. First up, let's talk about the first thing that Heated Rivalry did right. They did not try to be everything for everyone. This is where a lot of brands, a lot of businesses mess up. I hear clients tell me all the time that they're trying to reach everybody. And I keep telling them that you don't need to reach everybody. You just need to reach your right people. They typically try to cater to the mainstream. They try to soften their language. They try to really play it safe, to make sure that everyone feels good about their product. Just take a look at the Super Bowl ads. Remember the Super Bowl ads from last year? Probably not, because some of them are forgettable. Heated Rivalry did the opposite. It leaned straight into the label most brands want to run away from, and that's smut. I'm talking not just smut, but premium smut. And if you don't know anything about it, you're not the target. That's positioning. They weren't embarrassed by it. They weren't really winking at it either. They owned it. In doing so, they tapped into an already obsessed niche. Book Talk, if you're not familiar with Book Talk is like TikTok's side of people who love to read books. So Book Talk, romance readers, fandom culture, these are people who don't casually like content that they see. They devour it. That's one of the small business lessons I need to tell you about. Don't try to sanitize your product for people who are not paying attention to you anyway. Find your book talk. Find your niche. If you sell hot sauce, stop saying, oh, it has a great flavor. I mean, that's not enough. Talk to people who are obsessed with like maybe the Scoville scale. If you're a consultant, stop saying you have custom solutions. I always say, start with the pain. You're going to help somebody fix that. I'm going to help somebody who doesn't have a great budget and they have a physical location. Figure out what you offer and really be specific. Know your niche. Specificity builds trust faster than polish ever would. And one more thing they nailed. It's a queer romance and no awkward distancing. They treated the story like a prestige drama. If you see it, it's wonderfully shot. The cinematography is amazing. It's not a gimmick. The confidence signals something powerful. Secure masculinity, emotional depth, no apologies. That pulled in queer audiences and women, majority women came in droves. The takeaway? Authenticity beats broad appeal every single time. And I mention this all the time. I mentioned this probably in my last 3 videos. Authenticity wins. Let's talk about the next thing that they did great. They didn't just release content. They released raw material, high contrast lighting, lingering glances, distinct color palettes like the blues and reds. They did that on purpose. Everything was edit ready. That's what I love. The fans took it from there. So everything was edit ready. They just made assets that you could do. So TikTok exploded with a bunch of fan edits. And if you're not sure what a fan edit is, it is when people take your content and they do their own editing with it. They put different music behind it. They may put in overlays. They do it themselves. These are like great for editors. They made mini trailers using it. They use trending audio from like different songs, put it up to with Beyonce, or maybe put it to one of Kendrick's songs. They did emotional cuts. They did thirst traps because, again, hot men. And these didn't really feel like ads. These are just content that people like, oh my gosh, they took my favorite song. Oh, they matched it up with one of my other favorite series. And people want to know what it's called. People want to know what that is. I call that the asset remix. Your content should be easy to remix, repurpose, and repost to other people. Remix that stuff. That's the Trojan horse. Those edits weren't aimed at hockey fans. Like I said, it was a gay drama about 2 hockey players. They were aimed at the algorithms on Instagram, on TikTok. Someone scrolling on TikTok didn't think, oh, a hockey show. No, they thought, why am I suddenly emotionally invested in these 2 men? Why do I need to find out more about it? Let me find out what this is about. So as a business owner, are you creating content your audience can use? If you're B2B, like a consultant, you have a service offering, are you providing them frameworks or charts that they could steal and maybe use in their own decks or when they do a business case for their boss? If you're a coach, are you creating clips that people say, this is so me. Oh, I heard that. That's, I love that quote. Your best marketing asset is content other people want to credit for sharing. So you want to make sure that it's shareable. Content marketing is the best area to invest in. This is something that I tell people, especially in the area of AI. Your content is going to be king. You need to invest in more creating that content because people are taking a longer time to know, like, and trust you and actually to want to work with you and who want to purchase from you. It's a longer runway these days with all the distraction that's out there. So you need to make sure you have enough content on that runway to keep them interested. Now, the next move that they did that I thought was great was distribution. What does that mean? So Netflix typically drops everything at once. I know they sometimes drip it out, but they typically drop everything at once. You binge it, then you forget it, and you move on. Heated Rivalry said no, they didn't do that. They released it episodes weekly. Now, I know Stranger Things did the same thing, and there's a reason for that by releasing it weekly. The gap between the episodes is where the magic happens. Reddit threads blew up. People were talking about it a lot. Theories were everywhere. People were arguing, analyzing, obsessing. The space created anticipation. If they had dropped the whole season in a weekend, it's only 6 episodes, the conversation would have probably died by Monday. I know certain countries right now, the UK, they got the whole thing. Us here in the United States, it was dripped out to us starting the day after Thanksgiving. I think this is so sneaky and genius on their part. They launched during Thanksgiving against Stranger Things, right? I mentioned Stranger Things, right? This was counter programming. While everyone else was watching this nostalgic sci-fi with their families because Stranger Things has been around for a while, wow, it's the final season. So Heated Rivalry offered what I called an adult alternative. You can watch Stranger Things with your family. It was great. It was nostalgia, I love that. But Heated Rivalry was for adults only. This is for your grown folks crowd. Don't watch this at work and don't watch this with your children. The small business lesson here is stop dumping everything at once. If you're launching like an event or course or webinar and you put something out there and expect people to come with that one piece of content, you need to release something weekly. If you're dropping a product line, I suggest like you just put out a piece at a time. If you're like a candle maker or if you have a very intricate product, talk about elements of that product one at a time and leading up to the grand reveal. Running a campaign, you want to let it breathe. You want to like start the campaign and then watch how people respond to it. Scarcity isn't about manipulation. It's about giving your audience time to talk about it. You want them to like, oh yeah, did you see that? Refer it, share it. You want to give them that time. Now, the fourth pillar of this framework that I love, this part to me is the chef kiss. Instead of generic ads, actors partnered with Quinn. Quinn is a female-focused audio erotic app. They voiced an exclusive story that tied into the show, and they released it the week after the final episode. Same similar type of characters. They both were there. It was similar fantasy, but it was definitely a different format. It was audio. I call this as a side door collaboration. This is where you're collaborating, but if you're not collaborating with the major brands that you see out there. This is not like a Wicked collaboration or like you saw with Stranger Things. You're not collaborating with different type of foods and things. This is more of a side door type of collaboration. It really didn't feel like marketing. I know a lot of people thought it was more of a gift, right? It's like, oh, wow, we get another treat. It didn't feel like marketing, but that's exactly what it is. It worked so well that even the app crashed. So the big takeaway for small business and medium-sized business owners is like, where does your audience hang out before they buy from you? That's something that you need to know. You need to know like what social media sites that they're on or where they really hang out. Maybe even physically, where do they hang out? This is where you should partner. It's cheaper than ads. I know we talked about like influencers and working with influencers, but you need to find the ones that your audience really hangs out with and create a side collaboration. I mean, I love driving traffic, but I also love having these collaborations with different brands and businesses that really work and leverage each other. The final thing they did, because the engine worked, right? It was like a niche audience. And they went mainstream. People started looking at them. They were on late night TV. They did some sports crossover with the NHL. They were on their Jumbotrons, but not before the launch. They did this after the launch, after the community approved the demand. So they went out there and they said, okay, yeah, we're going to do this. And then we're going to then go mainstream. We took this niche and now we see this demand. That's typically what brands get wrong. They don't do that. They don't go in that direction. A good example, I mentioned Stranger Things. I'll mention like Wicked, all the promotion that they did around Wicked. They didn't really like hone in on one little thing. It also goes to point like when you are on a tight budget, like this show was, you're going to have to use your audience, your built-in audience already, people who love it already. So let's recap. I talked about this little framework. First, you're going to identify your own niche, right? Get very specific. That niche that is loyal, that will sell for you, pretty much. You're going to do some, what I call asset remixing, right? You're going to make the content remixable. You're going to have people be able to take that, share it, and just have people use it. You created it, right? Get the most bang out of the buzz. You're going to work on scarcity, right? Controlling the timeline. You're going to drip things out. You're not going to throw everything out there at once. You're going to let time work at it. Partnerships. You're going to go where your people already are. You're not going to try to drive people to maybe even the place that you're comfortable with, but go where they are with this niche. Go out there. And if you have to physically go there, partner that way as well, not just in the digital space. It could be somebody local in your community doing something. So again, you don't need a huge budget. You just need to understand your audience so deeply that they will do the marketing for you. So Heated Rivalry wasn't just a show. It was actually a community movement, a community event. especially when you're doing your next big product marketing, next big offer, or even if it's an open for business launching. Don't just post it, really make it an event. So if you are interested in finding out more about this strategy that they use, or just a content strategy that will work for you, then check out down below. I have a community, the Marketing Therapy Lab, where we talk about things like this. Right now, we're talking about leads and follow-ups and strategies like this so that your content is bigger and better and you put all this effort into it and you get the best results from it. Happy to talk a little bit about this. And if you want to talk about heated rivalry, we could talk about that too. It was a great show. And I'll see you in the next video.